Time Olympic champion Usain Bolt says he is just as confused as most people regarding the multi-million-dollar fraud case involving his account at local investment house.
I just say I need to get to 9-6. I think that's my aim. Every season, try to get back into the best shape that I can get into. So,
a commercial building on Halfway Tree Road in the heart of Kingston. More than 50,000 square feet of office space on Hope Road, wired and zoned to seat 2,500 workers. A restaurant carrying his name on 2 continents. A Ferrari that cost more than $400,000 parked in the hills above the capital. And a mansion in one of the most exclusive neighborhoods on the island, larger than anything built around it. Most people know him for 9.58 seconds, the fastest any human being has ever run 100 meters, 8 Olympic gold medals, 2 world records that have stood untouched since 2009. But the medals are not the fortune. The fortune is in the deeds. And there is a version of this man's wealth story that almost no one is telling correctly. This is a channel about black wealth, black power, and black legacy across the world. Not who someone is dating, not what they are wearing, ownership. And we are not here to tell you the story you have already heard 100 times, the one about the lightning pose and the smile. We are here for the second act, the quiet one, the one with property records and holding companies in it. If that is the kind of story you came for, subscribe and turn on notifications, because this next part is where it gets interesting. The Sherwood Content blueprint. To understand the empire, you have to start where there was nothing close to one. Usain Bolt was born on August 21st, 1986, in Sherwood Content, a small rural town in the parish of Trelawny, Jamaica. This was not Kingston wealth, this was country. His parents, Wellesley and Jennifer Bolt, ran a small grocery store, and young Usain spent his early years the way many Jamaican kids did, playing cricket and football in the street with his brother in a town most of the world would never be able to find on a map. He attended William Knibb Memorial High School, where that same raw speed turned a country boy into a national schoolboy champion long before the world ever learned his name. There was no blueprint for what he would become. There was a fast kid and a cricket coach who noticed that the fast kid was faster than everyone else and suggested he try track. That suggestion changed a life. But here is the thing to hold on to as we go, because it is the whole argument of this story. The speed made him famous. The speed did not make him wealthy in any way that lasts. Fame depreciates. It fades the moment a faster man shows up, the moment the cameras move on. Ownership compounds. It keeps working while you sleep. And the most important decisions Usain Bolt ever made happened after the races were already won. The foundation years. Let us talk about the conventional money first, because it was enormous, and because it was never the real structure. By the time he was done, Bolt had collected 8 Olympic gold medals across 3 straight games: Beijing in 2008, London in 2012, and Rio in 2016. The so-called triple-triple. He set the world record in the 100 meters at 9.58 seconds and the 200 meters at 19.19 seconds, marks that have stood untouched for more than 15 years. And that permanence is exactly why the money kept flowing. A record that cannot be broken becomes a brand that cannot be replaced. When Bolt signed with the German sportswear company Puma as a teenager, almost no one understood what they were looking at. That relationship became one of the most valuable endorsement deals in the history of sport. Reporting suggests Puma has paid him somewhere between $9 and $10 million a year, and the deal continued even after he stopped competing. Read that again. He retired from running in 2017, and the largest single check in his life kept arriving anyway. On top of Puma, there were deals with Gatorade, with Visa, with the Swiss watchmaker Hublot, with Nissan. There were appearance fees reported in the range of $250,000 to $500,000 just to show up. In one 12-month stretch between 2017 and 2018, by reported estimates, Bolt earned around $31 million, and only about $1 million of that came from anything to do with actually racing. So the man was making $30 million before he laced up a shoe. Most athletes would call that the finish line. For Bolt, it was the raw material. Because income, no matter how large, is not wealth. Income is a river. It flows in, and if you do nothing, it flows right back out. Therefore, the question that defines the rest of this story is the only question that ever matters. What did he build with the river before it dried up? The pivot to ownership. Here is where the icon becomes the owner. Bolt did not simply bank his endorsement money and buy toys. although he certainly bought a few toys. He began routing his wealth through holding companies, names that do not appear on a medal podium. Sherwood Holdings Limited, Thesis Limited. These are the vehicles through which the fastest man in the world quietly started buying pieces of Jamaica. Yes, there were the toys we promised you. A Ferrari 458 Italia reported at more than $400,000. A Ferrari F430 Spider, a Nissan GT-R built and customized in his honor. A collection valued at well over $1 million, sitting in a garage in the hills. But here is what separates Bolt from the cautionary tales of broke former athletes. The cars were the smallest part of the plan, never the whole plan. For every dollar he spent on something that loses value the moment you drive it off the lot, far more went into something that gains value while it simply sits there. He bought the depreciating things with the spare cash and the appreciating things with the strategy. And the pieces he chose tell you everything about how he thinks. He did not chase flashy overseas trophies. He bought commercial property on his own island, in his own capital city, the kind of property that does not depreciate the way a sprinter's body does, the kind of property that other people pay you to use. That is the difference between a celebrity and an owner. A celebrity gets paid to appear. An owner gets paid because they hold the thing everyone else needs. Bolt was crossing that line, deliberately, while the world was still asking him to do the pose. The Hope Road Building. If you want the single clearest picture of who Usain Bolt became, go to 30 Hope Road in Kingston. This is not a nightclub. This is not a vanity project. According to reporting in the Jamaica Gleaner, Bolt became the owner of a property on Hope Road, encompassing around 60,000 square feet of land, with a building spanning more than 50,000 square feet, developed for a very specific purpose. It was set up as a business process outsourcing center. In plain language, an office complex built to house call center and outsourcing operations, with capacity reported at up to 2,500 employees. Think about what that actually means. Bolt did not just buy a building, he bought the floor under the jobs. The property secured approvals from the local municipal authority and a permit to operate as a special economic zone, a designation that brings tax advantages and makes the space far more valuable to the outsourcing firms that need it. It was advertised for lease at a figure reported near $90,000 a month to a single tenant. The asset has been held through the company Thesis Limited, with executives from his own camp, including his longtime manager, Nugent Walker, listed among the directors. So, while the headlines were still calling him a runner, the runner had become a landlord to an entire workforce. Other people would clock in every single day in a building he owned, generating income that flowed to him whether he ever ran another step or not. That is ownership that compounds, and it is the exact opposite of 9.58 seconds, which can never be run again. Secondary holdings. The Hope Road Center is the headline, but it is not the whole portfolio. Bolt confirmed years ago, in his own words on social media, his involvement in a major commercial development on Halfway Tree Road in St. Andrew, posting a photo of himself in construction gear at the site with a single caption, "First of many." That project was tied to a development company connected to his business partner, Gary Matalon, and reporting has consistently described Bolt as the holder of a number of commercial properties across the island, the quiet kind, the kind that do not come with a ribbon cutting. Then there are the homes, and they matter because they show the same instinct. His primary residence is a 5-bedroom mansion in Norbrook, one of the most exclusive neighborhoods in Kingston, an upscale enclave of roughly 15,000 residents in the hills above the city. Reported valuations on that property range from around $2.5 million to far higher, depending on the source. And the home sits near the University of the West Indies, close to where he once trained with the Racers Track Club. For a period, during his brief chase of a professional football dream, he also held a waterfront penthouse in Australia, nicknamed the Sky House, which spanned around 11,700 square feet and was reported near $1.9 million. And back home, there have been reports of a beachfront property on Jamaica's famous north coast in Montego Bay. But notice the pattern. The man who could live anywhere on Earth kept his base in Jamaica. Most global superstars relocate to Los Angeles, to London, to Dubai. Bolt stayed home, and he bought his island. That is not an accident. That is a strategy. Stay with that idea, because it pays off completely by the end. The name is the machine. Now we arrive at the layer most people completely misunderstand, which is the restaurant. You have probably seen the brand. Usain Bolt's Tracks and Records, a Jamaican-themed restaurant and sports bar that first opened in Kingston in 2011, around 7,000 square feet, more than 200 seats, screens everywhere, jerk chicken and oxtail, and a signature burger named after the man himself. Over the years, the brand spread to Ocho Rios, to Montego Bay, and even to London, near Liverpool Street Station. Here is the part that almost every video gets wrong. Bolt does not simply own a chain of restaurants outright. What he owns is more clever than that, and more durable. He licenses his name and image to the business, and holds an investor stake through Sherwood Holdings Limited, while the heavy lifting of operating the restaurants has run through the publicly listed KLE Group and an associated company called FranJam. KLE has been listed on the Jamaica Stock Exchange since 2012, and in 2021 it moved the entire Tracks and Records operation into FranJam, where the entertainment businessman Joe Bogdanovich holds the majority, and KLE kept a minority stake of around 49%. The reason was simple: the restaurants were losing money, especially through the pandemic, so the listed company shifted that risk off its own books and pivoted toward property, even taking a stake in a luxury residential development on the North Coast. Now follow the structure, because the lesson jumps right out at you. Who carried the operating risk? The companies. And who owns the asset that cannot be taken away no matter how any single restaurant performs? Bolt, because the asset is the name. The two words that make people walk through the door are his and his alone, and he gets paid for the use of them. That is what it looks like to own the machine instead of running it. A location can close. The brand is forever, and it belongs to him. If you are getting value from this breakdown, this is the moment to subscribe, because we cover exactly this kind of ownership architecture every single week, the moves that mainstream coverage skips right over. Now, let us talk about the part of the story that keeps this honest. What he lost. A real documentary does not only show you the wins, and Bolt's story has a hard chapter that actually proves the entire thesis better than any victory could. In early 2023, Jamaica was rocked by a fraud scandal at an investment firm called Stocks and Securities Limited. Among the clients was Usain Bolt. According to reporting from Reuters and the Jamaica Gleaner, roughly $12 to $13 million vanished from his account, money he had earned at the very top of his powers, handed to professionals to manage, allegedly stolen out from under him. As of recent reporting, the legal fight to recover it was still ongoing. Years later, the collapse of Stocks and Securities Limited became one of the largest financial scandals in modern Jamaican history, touching many clients, but it was Bolt's name that put it on the front page of newspapers around the world. There was also a swing he took that did not land. In 2018, Bolt co-founded an electric scooter company called Bolt Mobility. It expanded, it made noise, and then in 2022, it shut down amid funding problems. A genuine miss. Now hold both of these against everything else we just walked through. The money he handed to other people to manage got drained away in a fraud. The flashy tech venture collapsed, but the buildings are still standing. The land on Hope Road is still land. The name on the restaurants is still his name. The mansion in Norbrook is still in Norbrook. The assets he could see, touch, and hold the deed to survive the very setbacks that wiped out the assets he could not. Fame depreciates. Paper handed to strangers can disappear overnight. Ownership of real, physical, deeded things compounds and endures. That is not a slogan. In Bolt's own balance sheet, it is documented fact. The legacy lever. There is one more layer, and it is the one that turns a rich man into a generational one. Through the Usain Bolt Foundation, established around the height of his career, Bolt has directed resources back into education and development for young people in Jamaica, with a particular focus on the kinds of communities he came from, including his home parish of Trelawny. And you should not read that as charity in the soft sense. Read it the way the smartest wealth builders read it. When you invest in the schools, the children, and the infrastructure of the place where you own the buildings, you are raising the value of everything around your own holdings. You are building the next generation of workers, customers, and tenants. The foundation is not separate from the empire. It is the long horizon of the same empire. It is wealth architecture with a 50-year time frame. The life now. Today, Usain Bolt is 39 years old. He is retired from the track, but he is not retired from anything that matters financially. He lives in that Norbrook mansion with his partner Cassie Bennett and their 3 children, on the island he chose to own rather than leave. By most reported estimates, his net worth sits somewhere around $90 million, with some analysts placing the range higher once private real estate is accounted for because private holdings do not publish audited statements and Jamaican property values are often left undisclosed. The Puma checks still arrive. The brand still draws crowds. The buildings still hold their tenants. And the man who once won everything in front of 80,000 screaming people now does most of his important work in silence, through holding companies most fans have never even heard of. The synthesis. So, let us return to where we started. A building on Halfway Tree Road, more than 50,000 square feet on Hope Road, built to seat 2,500 workers. A restaurant brand on 2 continents, a Ferrari in the hills, a mansion larger than anything around it in Norbrook. When the title promises that Usain Bolt owns a kingdom, here is what that actually means, told straight. He does not just own restaurants. He owns the name those restaurants depend on, which is the single most valuable asset in the entire arrangement. He owns commercial real estate in the capital of his own country, the floors that other people's businesses stand on. He owns the deeds, the land, the licensing rights, and the access that comes with being both a national symbol and a landlord at the same time. He did not just live in Kingston, he bought pieces of it. He turned 8 gold medals, which can only sit in a case, into property and equity, which can pay him for the rest of his life and beyond it. That is the move, from icon to owner. From the fastest man who ever lived to a man who owns the ground other people run on. The races ended in 2017. The income they unlocked is still working today. So here is the real question for you. Of everything we covered, which move was the smartest? The Hope Road building that houses 2,500 jobs? The decision to license his own name instead of risking it? Keeping his entire base in Jamaica instead of leaving? Or the brutal lesson buried in the fraud that the only money truly safe is the money you can hold the deed to? Drop your answer in the comments and tell me which one you would have made. Subscribe and turn on notifications because next week we are pulling back the curtain on another untold black wealth story the headlines refuse to tell correctly.